Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation of PowerUP Cooperative Business Incubator Info Session. My name is Betsy Ames. I'm the Executive Director for the Northeast HERS Alliance, and we're delighted to have you with us today. Just by way of an announcement, we do have our HERS Rater training coming up in October, the end of October. Anybody who is looking to become a rater can save $200 if they register by midnight on September 29th. So if you know anybody who's interested, please have them go to the link on the slide and sign up. And the final registration deadline is October 13th. For the agenda for today, we do have the intros coming up here in a minute, and then we'll turn it over to the presenters, and it will be about 60 minutes of a presentation and roughly about a half an hour of questions at the end, but there will also be breaks for questions as we go. So I want to really encourage audience members, if there's something that you are wondering as we're talking, please post that into the questions panel as you think of it, so you don't have to try to remember it later. And we will get to as many of the questions as we can as we go. So audience members are participating in listen-only mode. The questions panel is in your dashboard. You can use it at any time during the presentation. The handout will be available after the presentation. I didn't have time to get the handout together beforehand. And we'd really appreciate if folks would follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. It really helps to amplify our messages if you share them with your network. As the webinar closes today, there will be an electronic survey, and we would really appreciate you filling that out. It just helps us plan for future webinars and help gather your suggestions for topics that you'd like to see. And then last but not least, the recording of this webinar will be posted on our member-only section of the website by Friday. All right, and with that, I'm going to jump into introductions for our presenters. Stacy Cordero, did I say that right, Stacy? She is the lead organizer for this for our cooperative incubator session. And she is a technical assistance provider for cooperative businesses with over 15 years of experience providing direct services to cooperatives. She's focused on nuts and bolts skills, including business planning and financial projections, governance and support, business systems and software, and legal and tax structure for co-ops. She now serves as lead organizer and executive director for the Boston Center for Community Ownership, or the acronym is BCCO. Stacy holds a master's degree in community economic development from MIT. And when not at work, she can be found tending the garden and making improvements to her 20-year-old home in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Stacy, thanks for being on to present today. And
that was a typo. It's actually 200 years.
200 years. Oh my goodness. Yes. Wow. That's really cool. Thanks for correcting that.
Sorry about that.
That's great. And also with us today is Amias McKnight. Amias is a program manager for the Clean Energy Cooperative Business Incubator, where he leads initiatives designed to foster innovation and growth with the clean energy sector. With a background in engineering, marketing, and entertainment, he brings a unique blend of technical expertise and creative problem solving to the role. Specializing in human resources, hospitality, and leadership development, he is passionate about supporting entrepreneurs and optimizing business operations. Driven by a focus on calculated risk-taking and smart solutions, Amias is committed to shaping the future of sustainable energy and empowering the next generation of clean energy leaders. Amias, welcome. Thanks for being here. I am going to turn the presentation over to you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we're presenting today on the green opportunity for cooperative businesses in the clean energy sector. Next slide. We are Boston Center for Community Ownership. We are based in Dorchester, Massachusetts. We are what's called a technical assistance provider for small businesses. So we provide startup services for new businesses and ongoing services for existing businesses, such as business plans, financial projections, loan readiness. We do education and training to help people get started with cooperatives. And the program that we're here as a part of is called the PowerUP Cooperative Incubator. It's the first time that we're offering a comprehensive incubator program for new and existing businesses that are cooperatives, or existing businesses that want to convert to cooperative ownership structure in the field of clean energy in the construction field. So any business that can affect the energy usage in buildings. And all that will become much clearer throughout the presentation. Next slide. So the presentation has 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about what's going on in Massachusetts in the clean energy sector in buildings. Second, we're going to talk about cooperative businesses and the advantages of cooperative businesses in the sector. And third, we're going to introduce the PowerUp program and talk about how people can enroll in the program. Betsy, is there any way for the participants to introduce themselves so we know who's in the room?
Folks can put that into the questions panel and I can share what people put there.
Great, that would be great. Yeah, if you want to just put in your name, where you're located, and you know, how much you know about cooperatives, for example, or yeah, or what brought you to the workshop today. Thank you, and while you're doing that, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so as I trust that everybody here, because of your audience as HERS raters, people are pretty familiar with issues around energy usage in buildings. This program is funded by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, and they are motivated by this plan for the state of Massachusetts to reach net zero carbon emissions by the year 2050. So in this slide, you can see that there are a few big sources of carbon emissions. The 3 biggest being the darkest purple on the bottom there is the building sector. The next one up is electricity generation. The next one up from there is transportation. Thank you, yes. So the state of Massachusetts has created a clean energy climate plan that gets us to where we are now. This plan was made in about 2020, and it gets us to 2050 by reducing emissions in these areas, and then also introducing carbon capture strategies to get us to net zero by 2050. So what we're talking about here today is that dark purple band at the bottom, the energy usage in buildings, and how do we do our part in the fields of construction to reduce the energy usage or the carbon emissions coming from the building sector. Next slide. So you're probably familiar from the training that you received about what are the strategies to achieve net zero in the building sector. But just to refresh your memory, or for anybody who isn't familiar with the strategies, the first thing that we do is we want to reduce energy usage in existing buildings through measures like insulation and air sealing. We want to upgrade windows and other building components. Obviously, in your role as HERS raters, it's your job to make sure to measure those savings and make sure that everybody's on track with their goals. Reducing the energy usage is not the only thing that we can do, though. Switching from on-site use of fossil fuels, such as gas and oil, to electric heating, cooling, and cooking, not through old-fashioned electric appliances, but through modern heat pump technology. And then, as you probably know, that also isn't enough just on its own, because if we are using electricity to heat and cool our buildings, but we also haven't fixed the use of fossil fuels supplying the grid, we haven't really made big improvements. So eliminating fossil fuels from electricity generation is also one of the main strategies here. And then I also wanted to mention the use of low global warming potential materials. You can get low GWP insulation, blown-in insulation, and carbon sequestering materials. So basically carbon-based wood fiber materials. Wood and wood fiber materials are some of the biggest strategies. Next slide. So you're probably familiar with gas top cooking, which is going to be a thing of the past. We're phasing out the burning of fossil fuels from not just heating and cooling appliances, but cooking appliances as well, and moving to more modern induction-based cooking. Next slide. And we're also moving away from gas and oil-fired furnaces and boilers in favor of mostly air source heat pumps. Next slide. And as you know, also in this field, it's really important for the consumers and for the construction companies that you work with, that once you've made improvements to the building envelope, you need to pay a lot more attention to your indoor air quality. And one of the ways that we do that is through balanced ventilation, through HRVs, ERVs, which take fresh air from the outdoors, condition it with the heat recovered from the exhaust air from the indoors, and deliver the tempered, purified air into living spaces. So as we tighten up buildings going forward, and as we build tighter buildings going forward, these technologies are going to become more and more important. So we're witnessing a pretty major transformation in the construction industry. Next slide. So the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center has done a lot of work to study the effects of these changes that we need to make to hit the carbon emissions goals, and what the implications are on the construction trades. So they're anticipating an increase in demand, especially for sub-trades, for both general contractors and sub-trades, particularly electricians and HVAC installers, people who install and maintain heat pumps, electricians who can abate buildings for knob and tube wiring, and HVAC engineers and technicians who can install balanced ventilation systems. Also, any contractor who's in a position to make improvements in the building envelope, such as insulation, roofing, siding, window contractors, are also going to be important businesses that are going to need a lot of new skills and a lot of new people entering the field. And in addition, so as HERS raters, I think you all understand that your work is critical here for guiding all the rest of these trades, and able to measure the effectiveness of the improvements that they're making in the building envelope. Next slide. So there's a variety of market sectors that businesses are going to be able to find opportunities in. Most businesses are kind of oriented towards a narrow subset of the building sector. So, there are businesses that specialize in residential remodeling. There are businesses that specialize in larger commercial developments. So the types of buildings include residential, commercial, and multifamily. If you're starting a business in this area, you want to think about who the customers are. Are you going direct to homeowners? Is your client base landlords and property managers? Are you looking to subcontract to general contractors? Are you thinking about the major contract holders under programs like MassSave that can provide opportunities for you? Or are you looking for big contracts, want to answer RFPs for municipalities and institutions? The kinds of programs you'll run into, there's always the MassSave program, which I think everybody knows about. The Birdo program is something that has become a big deal in Boston, where large institutional buildings are going to need to make major reductions in the energy usage of their buildings. And they also have programs like the Homeworks Green program in the city of Boston that allows residential homeowners to make energy-related improvements to their homes. Obviously, it's not the greatest time in the world for tax credits for energy efficiency, but there are still tax credits available at the federal and state level that is important for you as business owners to know about so you can communicate with your clients. And the heat loan program is something that people are probably also aware of, that you can get 0% financing to make energy-related improvements to your homes. So there's a lot going on in the clean energy sector, and entrepreneurs in this area need to be pretty well versed in where the opportunities lie and what your strategy is going to be as a business owner, into identifying what is going to be your niche in this area. Next slide. So we wanted to say something about environmental justice. One of the biggest reasons that the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center is running this program, the program that we are funded to provide is for the benefit of women and minority-owned businesses. The opportunities presented in this area in order to do the kinds of work that are going to be needed is an opportunity that the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center does not want to does not want this opportunity to be missed by contractors from disadvantaged entrepreneurial communities. So for that reason, the PowerUP program is oriented towards businesses that are majority owned by people of color and or by women. And some of the reasons that MassEC is motivated in this area are the disproportionate effects of climate change and pollution on communities of color, low-income communities, and disadvantaged entrepreneurial communities in general, such as higher asthma rates, living in areas that have greater heat island effects, higher energy prices. If you look at census data, you see that lower income households pay more per square foot for their energy prices, and also the issue of displacement due to climate change, due to sea level rise and the temperature and flooding related factors that are actually already driving people out of lower income areas. Next slide. So since you are already in this field, you probably already know that this is actually a great place that you can make a difference. So you can make people more comfortable in their homes. If we do this work right, we can actually reduce the money that people spend on utility bills. We can produce homes that are cleaner and healthier living environments for people, and actually contribute to the health of our communities, and also do what we can to prevent climate change and adapt to the effects of climate change going forward. Next slide. So we can pause here for questions. Betsy, is there a way for people to ask questions at this point?
Yes, if folks have questions, please type them into the questions panel and I will ask the questions that come in.
Okay.
And I don't see any questions coming in just now, but please
Okay.
feel free to type them. Anybody can type them at any time. So
Okay. Okay. So we can go on to the next. We'll have more pauses for questions. So if you want to go ahead and type them in, we can answer questions at the next pause.
oh, we have a
So
question here. How many businesses have you helped so far?
Part of this program, we're actually just launching this program. So this is the first time that we are launching this incubator. So this is a new program for us, but BCCO has been around since about 2012. And we have, I should have a number for you on this, but we've probably at this point served at least 100 businesses in different sectors. So we don't work only in construction. This is the first time that we're running an incubator that's just for construction-related businesses.
What other
but we do have
support?
Yes, good question. So we've worked in a number of industries. We've worked with a couple of different cleaning cooperatives. We've worked with landscaping cooperatives. We've worked for retail organizations like bookstores and restaurants. Really a pretty wide variety. But my background is in construction. We've worked with a few different general contractors. And that's actually the industry that we know best, actually.
Great. That's all the questions so far. So
okay, so I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague Amayas, who's going to take us through the section about cooperative businesses.
All right, thank you very much, and once again, welcome everybody. Glad to be able to present this information to you. So let's get into this slide about cooperative business advantages, right? So what are the business advantages to starting your company as a co-op? Next slide, please. So in this section, we'll talk about what a cooperative business is, what are some of the principles that cooperative businesses operate by, and then furthermore, what are the advantages in terms of like HR. Next slide, please. So this organization here, the International Cooperative Alliance, defines a cooperative as an autonomous associations of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through two major things: jointly owned and democratically controlled, right? Co-op is not, first and foremost, a co-op is a business, okay? It's not a nonprofit, it's not a club, it's not a project, and it's just like a lot of other businesses. Conventional businesses are owned by a sole owner, maybe a group of partners or shareholders, and that conventional business's purpose is to maximize the profits for its owners or its sole owner, right? However, a co-op, yes, it's about making profit. However, its purpose isn't to be maximizing profit, it's to maximize the benefits to its members, the folks who are coming together that need to be served, right? And so how does that look like in practice is making sure that the co-op is providing the best possible job, right? BCCO, we specialize on worker-owned co-ops where the employees are also the owners of the business. So the co-op as a whole, that company's goal is how do we make this a better place for our employees to work? How do we pay our employees the best rate so they can have a quality of life that we as a enterprise want to curate for our community members. Next slide, please. So I mentioned there's two important things that make a cooperative business. It's jointly owned and democratically controlled. So jointly owned by the members of the co-ops. There are a lot of different co-ops, but like I said, we focus on worker-owned co-ops where the employees are the owners. So each of those employees will purchase a share in that business. And if this business is profitable, they share in the profits. And they also take responsibility for the losses when those occur as well. So that's jointly owned is about that financial responsibility and the financial power of being an owner in a business. Now, democratically controlled is where the members, these employees who are also owners, have an equal say on some of the biggest decisions that can affect the business, right? Some things can be like what goes into the operating agreements, who is going to be on our board, what changes will happen to the bylaws, how do we accept new members, are we going to move the business to a new market? Folks who are historically not a part of those decision making at a traditional business, at a cooperative, they are informed and included in those high level decisions. Next slide, please. So co-ops, what makes them different from traditional businesses are that they operate from these type of principles. You can even say these are their business ethics, right? So we have voluntary and open membership, which means no one can be forced to join the co-op. The membership is open and eligible to peoples without discrimination of their protective characteristics. We also have democratic member control, which means that, like I just said earlier, members make the biggest decisions on, members are able to make the biggest decisions and they share in that collectively. We have member economic participation, which is where members have that economic relationship with the co-op as employees, and they're able to share in the financial reward and the risk. The autonomy and the independence is this co-op, like we said earlier, is a freestanding business. It's its own company. It's not a project. It's not a program. Very important part here, education, training, and information. This principle is important because we have employees, people who usually aren't a part of sitting at this larger table making high-level decisions, now have the opportunity to do so. So it's important that we educate, we train, we make sure that they show up informed so they can make the best decisions possible on for the company. So that means that they would need access to and training on financial statements and management reports, right? Things that type of information that a business owner would use to help them make those high-level decisions. Another principle we have here is cooperation amongst other cooperatives, which is pretty much just supporting, you hear support local business, right? And the whole mantra there is to make sure that we have revenue flowing into this small ecosystem of small businesses so that they can continue to participate in this market. So same here, cooperation amongst cooperatives, show love to other cooperative businesses. How much of your expenses are coming from Amazon? How much of your expenses are going to Home Depot? Okay, which of these expenses can we subsidize with a cooperative business or a small local business that offers similar tools? Like how can we give back? And then lastly, concern for community, which means co-ops aren't, like I said, they're not here just to maximize profits. They're here to take care of their peoples. And I'm sure we can all relate to the importance of wanting to be at a workplace where you're taken care of, right? So you scratch their back, they'll scratch your back, and they'll show up fully. Next slide, please. So now let's get into some more about the differences and the similarities. So how are co-ops like other businesses? Well, first things first, co-ops are market-based, and what we mean by that is that they're usually for-profit businesses, and they experience all types of pressures, external pressures, having to figure out what's the best price for their products and services, what's the best wages to pay their employees and their workers. And so this requires research, right? So people aren't just hopping out. I mean, some people are hopping out the bed, turning their swag on and saying, hey, I want to start a co-op today, but it takes real market research, just like how you would with any traditional business. You want to make sure you understand the market. Like Stacy just walked us through some of the demand going on from government and municipalities, and also some of the programs that are available, right? You want to make sure that when you starting any business, you're doing the research to make sure that there's a viable business opportunity there. Record keeping, just like at any traditional business, is also important at a cooperative. That's bookkeeping, that's keeping great meeting minutes, having accurate time logs for your organization, right? Like the things that you might have to show in case you're being audited, right? So you want to make sure that you're compliant with your record keeping. And cooperative businesses are usually incorporated for-profit companies that are incorporated as corporations or limited liability companies. And lastly, cooperative businesses are eligible for outside investment. Yes, you will have to get some insight from your technical assistance provider, like Boston Center for Community Ownership, to make sure that the way that your organization is structured, that you're preparing yourself to receive outside investment if that's the route you want to go. Next slide, please. So now let's get into the differences between the co-op and the traditional business. So co-ops have multiple owners. Like this co-op here, Energia, they're an installation contractor out of Holyoke, Massachusetts. If we have anybody from around that way, please feel free to let me know. You can email me and maybe we can set up a visit. So yes, Energia has multiple owners. Look at all those people. What do we got, like 20 people on screen? Yeah, all those workers are owners. Yep, and there's some co-ops that are as large as having thousands of members. And they have their own democratic management system, a way of which allows a process, a structure for how you govern your organization that allows these owners, whether you have 5, whether you have 1,000, to participate in a meaningful and informed way. Also, co-ops have a tool for equity, which is how they distribute profit. That's called the patronage dividend. That is something that is usually calculated based off of how many hours of work somebody had put in, or how much business somebody has brought into in terms of revenue to a company, right? And then how do we internally, how do we decide as a team at our co-op how to pay out somebody their dividend based off of their performance, their participation, their engagement. Always consult a CPA when you're thinking about your taxes. However, federally, cooperative businesses are awarded a special tax treatment, and we can dive deeper into that in some of our other workshops. And if you participate in this program, you'll learn all about that information. But of course, make sure you're talking to your legal team and make sure you're speaking with your accounting professionals. And Boston Center for Community Ownership has partnerships with both of those professionals in those sectors to support the folks that are being incubated in or are receiving technical assistance. Next slide, please. So why even bother cooperating? I can do it on my own, right? Well, yes, of course, there's a lot of people out here that are solopreneurs, sole proprietors, and just like a lot of small businesses, they're struggling. And what we're offering here is some of the benefits of cooperating, right? So first things first, the community benefits, right? Your cooperative is rooted in place. Like we said earlier, we're prioritizing our members, where usually our members are coming from a similar place, similar place where we live or have similar interests, right? Like, so we're really curating a community, and people are rooted into that community, and that translates into our stronger organizational cultures, and why we have this word resilience here, right? When times get hard because of We're so rooted in community, and our organizational culture is a priority at a co-op. When times get hard, co-ops have been shown to be more resilient or more creative in terms of creating solutions to help navigate tougher times. Say a succession, for example, recession. I mean, locally owned. We prioritize making sure at a co-op that your owners are from, like I said, a particular community. It's pretty straightforward there. And there's a multiplier effect as well when it comes to co-ops, meaning that, when you go to a local business and you spend money, like I said, we were supporting local businesses. That multiplier effect is that, co-ops are consciously aware of where they're spending their money. So they're supporting the local economy. The mom and pop shop is subsidizing maybe, 10% of their expenditures, while 30% of their expenditures goes directly to Amazon, and another 10% goes to Home Depot, right? So you're like helping contribute to this ecosystem. And then transforming industries, because co-ops are offering this, let's call it a talent retention strategy of offering equity to your employees, and rewarding them for their participation and prioritizing them and their needs at the organization, within the organization culture. You're really we're transforming industries here, because people are looking like, how are you guys from an HR perspective? How are you guys keeping your talent for so long? How are your workers so happy, right? And it's simply because that's what's prioritized at your cooperative business. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, when you get a chance. Mic check, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Next slide when you get a chance.
So I think we're going to need to turn webcams off.
Okay. Going to turn my webcam off now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the technical issues. And if you could start the slide again, we missed the audio for the slide. So if you could start there again, I'll edit the recording.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start now. Hello, and we're back. So why even cooperate? Why should I bother cooperating? I can do it on my own. I've been doing it on my own for so long. Some people have success doing it on their own. Some solopreneurs, some sole proprietors are struggling. And so what we're advocating for here when it comes to why cooperate is community benefits, right? So co-ops are rooted in place. They're serving a particular community. They're locally owned. So there's people from the community able to participate in ownership at a co-op, and this helps influence a strong organizational culture and identity, right? And that being rooted in place and being owned locally, that creates a culture of resiliency in times of recession or hard times, when you need to come up with creative strategies to retain your talent, right? And a lot of folks are seeing how co-ops have this talent retention strategy, because they're prioritizing their members' needs, wants, how they're being responsive to shifts in their HR strategies to accommodate what the workers, or the people who are closest to on the ground or closest to the work need. And so this is creating a positive organizational culture where there's ideally a higher retention rate and people are being offered equity in the place where they work. So other industries are seeing this and they're like, how do we do that? You know, from an HR perspective, like in the compensations benefits package perspective, right? You're transforming how folks are seeing that our work can become equitable. And then the other community benefit that I want to highlight is that this thing we have called multiplier effect, where co-ops you're conscious of where you're spending your money at this mom and pop shop or this local locksmith shop or Norfolk Hardware if there's a Norfolk Hardware near you, right? And it's like, all right, 20% of our expenses are going towards that, and we're supporting this local ecosystem. So that's the multiplier effect as well. So those are some of the benefits of why cooperating, although of course you can do it as a solopreneur, of course you can do it as a sole proprietor, but can you do it at scale? Next slide, please. Since we were just talking about solopreneurs and solo proprietors, let's get into the individual benefits. Having a say. There's a lot of places where I'm sure we can all relate in our professions where, you know, head down, do X, Y, Z. Don't ask me questions, right? This isn't the training center. Get the work done. And so the quality of your work, or you might know that, honestly, I've been doing this for like 5 years. I have a good like understanding that these clients, they usually like to be offered X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, and C, right? So you have a say at a co-op when you become an owner of the work as well as of the business, right? And you get to participate in that decision making as well. There's a sharing of the profits, like we spoke about earlier. The retention of good jobs, because co-op your business is the place that you're working, and the place that you own is prioritizing your needs, your wants, how to serve you best. It just creates this good job culture. And then you're building a committed and quality focused team, right? Where we're allowing people to buy into the mission of the cooperative. They're seeing they're feeling the tangible assets of being able to participate, give their feedback, see the feedback happen in real life in the form of change management. Maybe that took a business quarter, maybe that took 2 business quarters, but they saw it in action, right? And then they got if the business has been performing well, then that person has stock dividends within that within their business, and that dividends is going to grow over time the better the company is performing. And also the organized as an individual benefit, it's like, wow, even when the company that I work at and I partly own is going through hard times, we're very proactive, and there's a lot of adaptability in terms of the strategies we come up with. So that's, again, to the retention and the focused on building quality teams. Next slide, please. So yes, there are individual benefits, there are community benefits as well, and there are similarities and differences between a cooperative business and a traditional business. We're in the market and the game of equity, right? In the workplace. And so there's this phrase called solidarity economy that grassroots organizers are really the ones pioneering. You know, you may not hear that on a construction site, solidarity economy, right? But you'll definitely hear that when you step into the grassroots world. And so, but really we're talking about equity, right? And a cooperative is a tool within this solidarity economy. So solidarity economy is a global movement to build a just and sustainable economy where we prioritize people and the planet over endless profits and growth. Solidarity economy offers communities to govern themselves through participatory democracy, cooperative and public ownership, and a culture of solidarity and respect for the earth, right? So yeah, that's how the New Economy Coalition would describe solidarity economy. And I'm just letting you know that your cooperative business is one tool within that, and that tool is to bring a voice to the folks who are usually unheard in the workplace, but not just talk, right? You got to back it up with some paper, some black and white. And so what's that backup is the offer of equity as well, right? Democratically controlled, and there's an economic benefit for your participation. So next slide. All right, group, any questions, thoughts, points of clarification that came up when we're talking about the advantages of starting your business as a co-op?
I'm curious to know if there are, you said the business structure is a corporation or an LLC typically. Are there nonprofit cooperatives? Or is that
Yes,
okay?
there are, but they're called, what Boston Center for Community Ownership is, a worker self-directed nonprofit.
Okay.
So we're a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
But how we have designed our bylaws is to be as close to how our cooperative business operates. And so at Boston Center for Community Ownership, me being a worker here, I qualified to become a member here. And when I became a member, I was able to vote on who the board of directors could be. And then the board of directors elects our executive director, and the executive director hires any other directors or allows any other worker to participate in management. So ideally with this, with what I just described, there's a checks and balances, and there's opportunities to participate for workers to participate on a high level of decision making, which usually traditionally in a nonprofit happens on the board level.
Mm.
Stacy, is there anything there that you want to clarify, just in case I may have misspoke?
No, I think yeah, that was a really good description. I think the only thing that I would add is that a not-for-profit organization doesn't actually have owners in the same way that
Right.
that a for-profit business does. So in a corporation, you have shareholders, and in LLC, you have members, and those are the legal owners of the business, and they get profit distributions. So in a nonprofit, you don't have that ownership and you don't get profit distributions. So it's possible to have, Maya's described two parts of the co-op identity are the jointly owned and democratically controlled. So it's possible to have a democratically controlled nonprofit, but there's not that same economic participation as a cooperative. So that's why we make the distinction there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. We have another question here. Let me see. How many co-ops have some employees that are not members / owners? Is that common?
Yeah. So most cooperatives have a system where you join as an employee, you get hired as into a job like you would at any other business, and usually there's a waiting period that can be anywhere from a few months to a few years. And so what that is you're getting to know the company, you're getting to know the other co-op members, and at some point after that waiting period, you can apply to become a member of the co-op. And becoming a member means you become an owner. So it usually means that you actually purchase a membership share. You buy a share of stock in the company, or you buy into the LLC as a member. And usually that is structured as a payroll deduction. So you have like typically a year or two to actually finish paying the membership fee. So yes, so at any given time, a cooperative might have people who just haven't reached their eligibility yet to become a member. So they're employees and not members just yet. When you design a co-op, you can also choose whether some co-ops say that, if you want to stay at the co-op past your waiting period, that you must join as a member. They make it mandatory to join as a member. And if you don't want to join as a member, or if the other members don't vote to accept you as a member, then you have to leave the co-op. But I think that's pretty unusual. Most of the time, I think people do. There is a provision for people who choose not to join the co-op. They can continue working there just as an employee. But for the most part, I think the guideline is basically that at least half of the people working at the company should be owners at any one time. Like the majority of the workers should be owners of the company. If it's fewer than that, then it starts to get called into question whether the co-op ownership is really real or not.
Okay, thank you. The other question that I'm sort of coming to mind is about better outcomes. Like, do you, in your experience of supporting cooperatives, do you find that because there is this investment from everybody, like everybody's invested in seeing things go well because everybody gets a share of the profits, like do you find that cooperatives can be more effective than a business of a similar size because of the incentive there for the employees to do more, maybe
Yeah,
because they are invested in that way?
It's a great question, and I would say yes, if there is a strong connection, if the business is operated in a way that all of the members have access to information about the business, so they have access to information about how it's doing financially and how.
Yeah.
Be right. So it's important that they have access to that information, and not just that they have access, but like Amayas was saying, that they actually have education and training that helps them analyze the information they're being presented, right? So if they just receive, financial statements once a quarter and somebody just emails it to them and says, here's your financial statement, if they don't know what they're looking at and what to look for, then they're not going to actually be empowered to act on that information, right? So it's not enough to just disclose that kind of thing, but there has to be an active culture of education and training so that everybody has really got their mind in not just the numbers, but in the operations and how the operations connect the numbers. So I would say yes, if you're practicing really good, like open book management, if you're having a lot of good communication and open discussions about how our work on a job site affects our bottom line, and what are we anticipating at the end of the year? Are we going to run a profit? Are we going to run a loss? What does that mean for us personally and as a business? As long as those discussions are happening, then yes, I mean, the productivity on the job, there's definitely economic research that shows that cooperatives are more productive than what they call them investor-owned firms. And they are, like the kinds of things that Amayas was describing, they are more resilient in the downturn. They do outperform other businesses economically, but you do have to, but it doesn't just happen automatically. That happens because you put a lot of care and attention into your democratic management strategies. When I first got interested in cooperatives, I thought really the financial benefits were the things that would really matter to people. But over the years, as I've worked with co-ops, that feeling of having a sense of control over your working life is really the thing that I think drives people more so than the potential for the financial benefit, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
People just want to say democratically over the things that affect their lives. And that's true in many areas of our lives. Amayas, did I Is there anything you want to add about that?
No, I feel very confident in what you shared.
Thanks.
I've got a couple other questions here.
Wonderful. Yeah, let's keep it coming.
So I think Amias touched upon this. Do you have a network of co-ops that are trying to maximize their buying power with mom and pops and other co-ops versus big box stores?
That's a great question. I wouldn't say that we have a network like that, but there are efforts like that that we are a part of or that we know about. So one thing that's just getting started, we are a part of a statewide organization called the Coalition for Worker Ownership and Power, which is actually working on a supply chains initiative to identify, so they're trying to identify, let me see if I can describe this well. The kinds of purchasing that happens at kind of the, I guess, the retail level and at the business to business level. So they're trying to identify like where is the spending going from businesses and how much of that is going to values aligned businesses like cooperatives or BIPOC owned businesses or women owned businesses, LGBTQ owned businesses, and how many, so they're actually developing a tool that will allow people to upload their vendor and spending information and get kind of an evaluation of how much of their spending is going towards these values aligned businesses. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but then there's other initiatives such as there's a thing called the Community Purchasing Alliance, which is active in Massachusetts, that kind of bundles demand from churches and institutions and other businesses, other organizations that have a lot of like property to manage. And so they're kind of bundling them into a kind of a purchasing cooperative and putting out RFPs for things like cleaning services and landscaping services so that small businesses can have access to these like larger institutional customers and kind of scale up their business. So those are two examples that your question reminds me of, but I don't know if those are exactly what you're thinking about.
Thank you. Let's see, a couple more questions here. What does a transition from a standard company to a co-op look like? Can aging owners turn their company into a co-op as a way to retire?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's definitely, those are some of the people that we'd really like to connect with, especially if the people who work in your business already are part of the disadvantaged entrepreneurial community. So it's very common, yes, especially in construction, for a business owner, whether they want to retire or whether they just want to move on to their next thing, to actually
Stacy, we lost your audio. Apologize, folks, for the technical difficulties here. I'm not sure.
and
There you
so
are.
we're going to be, whoops, oh, sorry, did I cut out for a minute?
You did. So could you back up a couple
sorry.
sentences?
Yes, sorry. So, okay. So Amias is going to go through in the next section the different stages of either starting a new cooperative or converting a business to a cooperative. And that's actually what our incubator does. So if someone is interested in converting an existing business into cooperative ownership, we'd be interested in talking with you about applying for this incubator. It's available to both types of businesses, both startups and conversions. But there's a series of steps, and Amias will get into that in the next section.
Great. All right. Do you want the last question here, or should we hold it for the next?
Let's see what it is. And
okay. Do you help co-ops from becoming too muddled when there is a multitude of owners? As a small co-op grows, Can they rely on you to help reorganize the co-op if it's not working, so it doesn't bog down in over management?
Yes, I think I'm pretty familiar with the dynamics you're talking about. So most of the co-ops that we work with start with a small number of owners. You know, it can be as small as 3. For this program, we're looking for businesses between 3 and 5 members to start. But yes, as you grow, there's a bunch of different considerations. Like, for example, when you first start out, if you start with 3 members, all 3 of you might be the management team, all 3 of you might be the board of directors, and all the 3 of you might be the members of the co-op. And so when you have different decision-making powers assigned to each of those kind of levels of governance and management, if you're the same 3 people fulfilling all 3 of those roles, it can get very confusing. And when you grow, let's say you grow to, 8, 9, 12 people or 25 people, you need to differentiate those roles a little bit more. And if you've started with the same 3 people filling all those functions, it can be hard to kind of break them back apart again. So yeah, those are exactly the kinds of interpersonal dynamics that we're pretty familiar with, and we definitely help co-ops navigate those sorts of things.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Those are the questions we have so far. So would you like the next slide?
Yes, let's go on.
Okay.
Thank you. Oops. Yes, next slide, please. So the Boston Center for Community Ownership is starting its first cooperative business incubator for clean energy co-ops. It's called the PowerUP. This is a Massachusetts Clean Energy Center funded program. And the goals of that program are to, what Stacy mentioned earlier, help contractors, predominantly teams of color, get access to clean energy procurement. You see there's a lot of demand going on right now for workforce in the clean, in making sure that our tradespeople are getting skilled up to be able to meet the demands for clean energy services. And so our Cooperative Business Incubator aims to present this business opportunity and then get those individuals in the trades, in the construction, electricians, plumbers, help those individuals start their businesses, seeing that there's this demand for that type of workforce, and to make the most out of the opportunity at hand. Next slide. In this section, we'll talk about what is a business incubator anyway. Some folks may have been in an incubator before, or an accelerator, so many different words, right? We're in Boston, so there's so many different types of business programs. We'll also talk about the program eligibility and the qualifications, the benefits and the perks as a participant in this program, the program outline and its schedule, and the next steps. Next slide, please. So for those of us who haven't been in a business incubator before, this diagram on the left shows what do you plan to do, right? We come up with our plans, we come up with our strategies, and then what happens? 2020, the pandemic. I had a 5-year plan. Pandemic said, no, you don't, right? And so here's what you planned, and then on the right, here's what happened, right? And so you go through all of these iterative setbacks and then step forwards, 1 step back, and then 3 steps forward until you slam dunk it. And so the purpose of this business incubator is to acknowledge that while there will be these type of challenges, we'll still help you land in the same trajectory spot and hold and support you through those type of challenges. Next slide, please. So the eligibility for participation, majority of the ownership. So teams must consist of at least 51% women or individuals of color from underrepresented neighborhoods, especially by the date of when your business incorporates, right? At least one of the people on your team have to be licensed or soon to be licensed in this particular trade or the service that your business is looking to offer. The team must have at least 3, no more than 5 founding members to participate in this program. Integrity, dedication, and commitment. Really what we're saying here is that, there's an honor system, there's an oath that you will demonstrate a willingness to attend the workshops, complete the trainings, engage in the program's resources, pledge that when you receive your stipend, your second stipend, that you use it to capitalize your business so that your business is starting on the right foot and not at $0 in the bank. And also allow BCCO to access your business information for up to 24 months after this program ends, so that way we can measure how you're performing, what else type of support you'll need after incorporation, and then report to Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, the funder. And of course, entrepreneurs must be interested in launching their business or converting their existing business into a clean energy co-op. Next slide, please. So what are some of the benefits and perks of being a participant? So you'll receive a participation stipend, your time. Everybody here has a job. Everybody here is hard at work. Some people, we need our nights, we need our weekends, and sometimes that's when the extracurricular things happen outside of our working hours. And so we see that. We want to honor that by offering you a participation stipend. Then there's that additional stipend that you need to use to capitalize your business. So your business is starting with money in the bank. And also an allowance for any technology and equipment that you might need, especially when you're in the program itself, right? So you'll also receive team building support for your company culture, your policies as well that support that strong company culture. And then we have referrals for any wraparound support services that individuals may need when life gets real. You might need some personal, a personal finance counselor, for example, right? Whatever those type of hiccups that are coming up, or those, I don't want to call it hiccups, challenges that are coming up that might prevent somebody from being 100% present, pull me aside if you're in the program and say, yo, I got some real life things happening, and I'm going to say, word, well, I got some real life resources to offer to you. One of BCCO's core services is offering technical assistance. So you're guaranteed to get that technical assistance in this program. That can be business planning, market research support, coaching, advising, and there's a lot of other things that we're able to do under the technical assistance umbrella. BCCO has partnerships with legal teams or referrals to legal teams as well. So you'll be receiving pro bono legal support, specifically when it comes to incorporating your organization and filing your documents. We also have an allowance for back office support services, such as when you need to set up your bookkeeping, or if you need to hire a graphic designer to design your website, perhaps, right? And there will also be curating networking opportunities where you all will be able to meet industry professionals that work within procurement or certification and licensing offices. Next slide, please. So at Boston Center for Community Ownership, we have a methodology, and we usually call it the Cooperative Roadmap. Just like the map that we saw earlier when we looked at what a business incubator is, right? You might be in the team building. You might have one foot in the team building roadmap, part of this roadmap, and another foot in structure. But then you discover that, but by the time you get to launch, you discover that you need to go back to feasibility, right? So this is the thing about it being iterative. We don't want folks to be like, oh, we're going backwards. No, this is reiterative. You might have to revisit something, ramify it, so that way you can get past the next major milestone, and we'll guide you through that roadmap. And I'll take you through how these steps, the timeline for these steps and the schedule for these steps shortly, but I just wanted to introduce this cooperative roadmap to you. Next. purpose of this program is to make sure that your clean energy cooperative business leaves business ready. And how Massachusetts Clean Energy Center defines business ready is your capability to bid successfully on clean energy procurements, point blank, period. Next slide, please. So team building. We're going to be having retreats actually in October, and at this retreat most likely will be more personalized, where it's just we're going to meet with your team and we're going to train your team for 2 full days and help you curate this culture where you have your steering committee members confirmed, you have created and signed community agreements, you drafted your mission, your vision, your culture, and your value statements, train you on some conflict resolution skills and scenario-based exercises, as well as decision-making practices, to the question that somebody asked, the last question that we answered, right? So you'll get that hands-on scenario-based training as well. So that's the team building. That'll be a retreat format. It'll most likely be personalized to your team specifically. Next. Then we get into about 3 to 4 months of feasibility study. So this will look like weekly meetings with myself and maybe a peer from Boston Center for Community Ownership. It could be hybrid, it could be in person, it could be virtual. I want to meet you where you're at. And this is where we're going to help you with your business plan, your financial projections, your other feasibility studies, like your market. What's your market? What's the organizational structure that's best for you? What type of technology might you need to pull off the services that you're looking to offer to the market, right? So we'll be building that feasibility study together for a few months after the team building retreat. Next slide. At the top of 2026, we'll do another retreat. This retreat, most likely the format will be all cohort members meet one another. We'll be working with our pro bono legal support to help you in these 2 full days come up with drafts for your bylaws or your operating agreements. And when we come up with those drafts, they'll be handed off to our pro bono legal support team members to be finalized. You'll also receive trainings about legal and tax structures, as a preparation for this in-person retreat. So the type of templates that will be provided will be able to help you draft your policies or your org chart or your decision-making procedures. Next slide, please. And now we launch your business, right? So now that your governing documents have been drafted, your team has received training about what's been drafted, we filed them. Maybe there's another training to refresh your team about what you guys filed, right? And so now your business is incorporated. And this is when you enter more heavier into technical assistance. And this becomes a lot more personalized for what your needs are. You'll probably work more closely with our peers who are heavier in technical assistance at BCCO with your hiring needs, locations that you want to either offer your services at or have an office in, your branding, preparing yourself for any financing if you're ready to get, if you're loan ready, or helping you with preparing for any elections for your board if you need that, right? And also this is where you'll be getting those connections with the professionals within the procurement, certification, and licensing bodies. So at the end of this launch phase, this is when that we're business ready comes into play, right? The whole goal of this program. You're ready to start successfully bidding on clean energy procurements, right? You're beginning to serve customers. Next, please. Stabilize, right? So Now this is where we're working with you, like how we work with all of our rest of our clients, making sure that you're growing in your sales, right? We've identified and we've bid on procurement opportunities together. There's a co-op that we work with called Earthshapers that has reached this stabilized phase. Earthshapers is a cooperative that focuses on green infrastructure, so mostly stormwater management, it seems like. And yeah, they just were able to go through this methodology, and now they're in their stabilized phase, right? They're growing, they're getting they're bidding on procurement opportunities, they're winning some of those that they bid on, and now we're helping them put their game plan together and set up their back office. What's their business systems that can support this business activity so that they can maintain, stabilize, and then scale, right? So the business systems, what are you using to manage your finances? What are you using to manage your jobs or your client relations? Next. So technically, around the stabilized, like that's when earlier you may have seen where I was like, we'll need about 24 months after the incubator ends, access to your information. Like the stabilize is really that. It's like the incubator ends a little bit between launch and stabilize, right? And now you're actively serving customers. Now you're bidding on contracts, and we're continuing to support you, having access to your business information, reporting that back to Massachusetts Clean Energy Center to let them know this is the progress these folks are making, this is the progress that these folks are making, this is the type of support these folks need, this is the type of support these folks don't need because this doesn't work for them, right? And then there's this other, a way for you to receive more support from us beyond the program. And this is ongoing support, project-based support that can be mostly project-based, small technical assistance support. And that looks like, next slide, succession. Now, when you reach it to succession, that's how you know your business is booming and is popping, right? Because when you're at succession, now we're talking about the business is scaling, right? So now we need to create a training program because we have new members coming in and they got to get onboarded and they need to know what it means to be an owner, but also they need to know how to do their job. We also have new folks stepping into leadership, and some of our founders are able to take a step back out of leadership, right? And we're also getting on top of our feedback loops. We're able to report our numbers well. We're being compliant. We're evaluating our performance. We're evaluating our services, and we're reinvesting into the business and our right. That's once you reach succession, that's how you know your baby is walking, right? It's walking. And it's really, I think that's a really amazing milestone to reach. And BCCO will be able to support you in that. However, succession, what comes into the support of succession is not necessarily included in your incubator, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, right, so any questions about the benefits, the perks, the schedule of the Cooperative Business Incubator for your clean energy business, cooperative business?
Okay, so let's see. Do we have any questions here? Had a couple comments to me, but I don't see any questions just now. Let's, yeah, if there's any questions from the audience, please put them in to the questions panel, and we'll certainly get them asked here. And yeah, in the meantime, I don't know, I'm curious if there are any highlights that you've had on, going, like you've done this in different sectors, getting these businesses stood up as, functioning entities. have you had any highlights out of those experiences that you would want to share as like points of inspiration for folks who may be sort of on the fence about like, yeah, like sounds like good, but I'm not really sure. It seems like a lot of work. Like, is there anything like that that jumps to mind?
Yeah, I can tell my own personal story, and then I'll
Great.
kick it to Stacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been at Boston Center for Community Ownership for 2 years now, and what got me into this field of cooperative business development or cooperative business organizing, like we like to say it here at Boston Center for Community Ownership, is that I converted an existing business into a cooperative. And technically it's a startup. It's in its startup phase, right? But I needed support with that. And this happened to be a place that I worked at. It's called the Dorchester Art Project. I was an employee there. And, you know, the community members wanted to see something different. The leadership at that time was open to seeing something different. They wanted to go through their succession as well, since they were tired. Long story short, they're tired, and the community members were demanding. So there was still, there was this willingness to go through a feasibility of, okay, what does Dorchester Art Project look like as a cooperative business? And I participated in an accelerator, and then after that accelerator gave me a little bit of confidence to communicate my idea better, I was introduced to to Boston Center for Community Ownership, a technical assistance provider that could help me get the deal done. And so I went through the education, I went through the assembling, the team build, literally the co-op roadmap, and I would still say it's look, I went through the co-op roadmap, and it was a very reiterative, like we just mentioned, right? I got a team of 6 individuals, and we're pretty much in the launch phase, but we're revisiting team building, right? We went through another accelerator, and then we were like, oh, maybe we should revisit feasibility because the strategies that we tried didn't necessarily yield us the results we wanted. And really the goal for us is to reach the stabilized phase, but now we're seeing that we have to train the team on the things that we decided in structure, right? So this is a reiterative process. And so it's only been 2 years since this startup has happened. So it's very much, that's when you compare it to this new cooperative business that was a conversion. Some of us here might be interested in conversions, right? You know, it still feels like it has some of that startup nuance to it, and I would say that from my personal experience, like I think it was definitely worth going through the conversion based off of what we were trying to accomplish, mission, vision, values wise, right? So this isn't really a workshop to convince you that you need to do a co-op. It's really to have you become curious, co-op curious, as one of the as Cooperative Fund of the Northeast, a loan provider says, right? You to be co-op curious, like, is this a right fit for you, right? And so I went through the process of figuring out, is this a right fit for what I'm looking to accomplish through my business? And the answer was yes, right? And so this program gives you that space to do so, right? And I would say that Dorchester Art Project is a case study, and through diligence and intentionality, maybe it'll become a success story. But Stacy has a few stories that are success stories. Stacy, may you please share some of those with your 12 years of experience, or 20 years
Sure.
of experience?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, Earthshapers is a recent co-op that we've worked with that we've been really excited about. But you know, I would also go back to like the first project that we did as BCCO back in 2012. We got started organizing a project that became Cero Co-op, which is a business that provides hauling services for restaurants and grocery stores that need to divert their food waste. So Massachusetts passed a regulation in 2014 that said that businesses that create a large amount of food waste basically need to compost that food waste instead of putting it in the trash, where it sits and creates methane, which is a big source of pollution. And so we got started with a group of workers from the Boston Workers Alliance and from MassCosh to put together a co-op academy. And that was the first time I ever ran something that we called Co-op Academy, which is kind of the precursor to this incubator that we're doing now. So the first Co-op Academy that we did was back in 2012. It was a 12 or 16 week program. I can't remember exactly how many weeks. And the participants went through and learned about how to start a co-op. And then afterwards, we worked with them as technical assistance providers and basically consultants for the next probably 2-3 years to get them launched and through their startup phase. And they're still operating right now. They're doing big contracts with the universities, with some of the large universities in Boston. And it's to be able to see them from having grown from hauling totes of compost in the back of rented trucks to like having these custom designed beautiful trucks that actually roll by my house every once in a while. When I'm standing in my front yard and one of those trucks go by, that's a really nice moment for me, because I know that not only are they doing a really great service diverting they're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, they're taking methane out of the landfills and putting it into composting facilities. But I know that the guy driving that truck is an owner of that business, and that big expensive piece of machinery is something that he owns. And that's something that really that makes me feel good about this work. So even though I said this is a brand new program, it's also something that has been kind of through, like Amaya was just saying, various iterations over the years. And so it's curriculum that we've been working on for a long time. We've kind of just repackaged it we've changed up the format of how we do co-op incubation, and we've really thought a lot about the structure that Amaya's just presented in terms of trying to shorten the timeline for how to get you from business idea to operation. We've had a lot of practice since 2012, and so we're thinking a lot about how to make it more accessible and how to make it easier and how to provide resources to make people successful. So
that's great. I'm just going to throw out one last question here, which is, have you seen it be successful to have what are you calling them, solopreneurs band together to create a co-op? Have you ever seen that work as a model for moving in this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's actually so in construction, I've spent the last 25 years, kind of half in the co-op world and half in the construction field. And contracting businesses are actually kind of one of the most popular industries for cooperatives nationwide. There's a lot of contractors. There's a lot of like solar installers. There's people doing really great work where the ethics of cooperatives kind of resonate with the same people who are work in the trades, but also really care about the climate and the personal environments of the clients that we all serve. So sorry, I got kind of diverted off of your question.
The question was if you have seen it be successful for like solo entities to come together to form a cooperative.
Right. So where I was getting at, where I was getting at with that is that in construction, if you've worked in this industry for a while, you might know that one of the problems with construction, one of the biggest problems right now, is being able to attract and retain skilled workers. And in carpentry, I worked in the residential remodeling field for a number of years at different companies. And one of the issues that we found was that as soon as a carpenter made it to like, journeyman level or a little bit beyond, as soon as somebody had, 5 to 10 years experience, they all wanted to go out on their own, and everybody wanted to go out on their own. So every company was training carpenters. And as soon as a carpenter kind of reaches a certain level of proficiency, they want to be their own boss. They don't want to answer to the boss anymore. And so there was this continual pipeline of like training carpenters who would then leave your company and then become your competitor. And so I personally think that one of the reasons why co-ops are attractive to construction businesses is that it's actually a way to retain those kinds of people, those like more skilled workers, by offering them ownership in the same companies. They don't have to go out on their own and start something from scratch, which is a lot harder than most people realize, but they're able to become an owner at the place where they already work. So that's not exactly the question, but the question in terms of solopreneurs coming together, there are examples of that, and we are interested in talking to people like that. There's an example. It's not our project, but our colleagues at BECMA, the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, they worked with a group of solo entrepreneurs who were all involved in one way or another in the electric vehicle area. I believe maybe one of them was an electrician, another one was a marketing person, another one was a policy person. I could be wrong about that. I'm kind of making that up. But there were 3 people who were already working in that area as solo entrepreneurs, and they came together and started a new company with the express intention of being able to pursue larger contracts with with private clients, but also be well positioned to answer RFPs for municipalities and larger institutions as well. So that is also a thing that's happening. We've talked with a number of people who are interested in things like, bringing together subcontractors with general contractors under one umbrella and making it kind of creating a cooperative structure of where instead of the members of the co-op being workers, the members of the co-op being other businesses. And so we're actually exploring that a little bit too, because that's also it's a structure that people are interested in. So if that is something that you're interested in, we're definitely interested in talking with you about that as well to see if that makes sense. So those kinds of co-ops would also theoretically be eligible for this program.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for sharing all of your great insights and expertise with us. I know that the recording is going to get posted on the website by Friday, and folks will be able to access it, thereafter for people who missed the webinar today. But is there anything else you would like to share as in conclusion before we all sign off?
Yeah, definitely. If you can go just 2 more slides.
Sure.
Forward. Thank you very much. So yeah, what's next, folks? So you can sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Instagram and or LinkedIn, right? If you're interested in this program, feel free to contact me. I'll show you my information on the next slide. However, there are 2 prerequisite workshops before folks can participate in this business incubator program. And so these 2 workshops are going to help you with those 2 things that we mentioned. Make a co-op, right? So the cooperative finances and the cooperative management. And so these prerequisite workshops will give you that fundamental information about how do I democratically manage and what are some of the skills that are necessary for that. When they say finances at a co-op, like what are we talking about there? How does this dividend thing work, right? We'll dive deep into those for 90 minutes each workshop. We'll dive deep into those and just train you up. So it'll be best that you come there with some team members that you already have in mind to participate in this program, because you do need at least three people to participate, to qualify to participate in this program, right? If you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so you can visit our website here, bcco.coop/PowerUp. You can sign up for the newsletter there. You can read up a little bit more about the program. And then you can always email me about any other questions you have. My email is amias@bcco.coop. Once again, that's amias@bcco.coop, AMYAS. Yeah, so if you have any questions about what we discussed today, you want to have just a quick follow-up meeting, like I'll book you right now if you hit me an email. I'm kidding, I'll book you tomorrow. And of course, we have those upcoming workshops, right? So those 2 workshops as well. You can even invite your friend or your peers to another co-op 101 that we're hosting via our own systems as well. So there's so many ways to plug in to the cooperative world, right? So even if it's not through the PowerUp Incubator program, and you just want to be a part of the ecosystem, and you want to meet and greet some other folks, and see this movement that has been building for, like Stacy mentioned, her experience as 2 decades, right? So yeah, come through, tap in, hit me up, and we'll get you situated. So welcome, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you both. And I think I have just one more slide here, which is just a reminder that the Northeast HERS webinar series, additional information will be posted on the website here at this link as we have it for the fall. I believe that there will be a standards webinar coming up in October. We don't have that posted yet, but it will be coming soon. So with that, thank you both, Stacy and Amias. Really great information, really great presentation. Appreciate you taking time to put it together and be with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to say thank you all and have a great night.
Thank you so much for having us.